My name is Alyssa, and on paper, I live a very ordinary life. Married to Mark, 2 kids, Sophie, 8, and Evan, 5, a job that pays for groceries and the occasional impulsive plant, a house that looks like someone staged it for a before photo of domestic chaos. I keep my world in columns. Calendars, color-coded grocery lists, a whiteboard in the kitchen where every family promise lives in Sharpie. Boundaries are my small, daily rebellions. They keep the house from turning into open season for everyone else's emergencies. Then there's Natalie, older sister, undefeated in impulse purchases and last-minute vacations. She carries sunshine like contraband. Natalie doesn't see the world in schedules. She sees it as a buffet of possibilities. She has 2 kids, Lily, 6, and Owen, 4, who are hands down among the most delightful small beings I know. They are also not my children, which is an important clause in my mental contract with the universe. For years, "Can you watch them?" was a casual incantation that meant, in practice, you probably will. At first I said yes because family and because guilt is a persistent, persuasive voice. Then yes became automatic, and automatic became default. And the edges of my life started to fray. I canceled date nights with Mark, missed deadlines at work, and explained away my simmering irritation as sibling sacrifice. That was before I learned that no is not a negotiation tactic. It's a boundary, and saying it out loud felt like learning a new language. So I learned to speak it. Not dramatized or weaponized, just actual words. I can't this weekend. We have plans. I'm at capacity. Short, polite, repeatable. Saying no was clumsy at first. My mouth felt like a thief's hand in an empty jar, but practice made it cleaner. I marked the calendar, told Mark, and put the kids' soccer schedule where it belonged, in ink. For once, the household rhythms matched the thing I was promising Sophie and Evan, their parents' presence. This is the part of the story where I should describe the scene that breaks everything, the doorbell that starts the avalanche. That's what makes for good drama. But the real life that matters to me is quieter and more insidious. It's the 1,000 small can-yous that started to sound like rights. Natalie's texts were like weather. Some days breezy, some days a storm. "Can you cover tomorrow?" they'd say, with a confidence that assumed I would rearrange my world. I answered the messages the way you answer a polite lie, with strained patience and the hope it'd pass. A few weeks ago, she sent me a message about a cruise she'd booked. "Last-minute deal," she said, with the kind of enthusiasm that makes compromises sound heroic. The ask followed, could I watch Lily and Owen while she escaped for a few days of ocean and cocktails? I typed a response that had been rehearsed and polished over many small infractions. I can't. Mark and I already have plans with the kids that weekend. I need that time to be our family time. Her reply was a simple, "Thanks for understanding." And I closed my phone with that particular slow relief that feels like a small victory. I felt something pleasantly smug. My calendar hadn't been rearranged. Dinner plans for Friday were intact. Sophie and Evan would have their usual Saturday morning pancakes. For once, the household script stayed the same. That evening, I folded laundry to the soundtrack of a mildly judgmental documentary and let myself believe the boundary had stuck. I made a mental note, tiny, private triumph, that not every ask needed answering. I set aside the guilt and served the kids mac and cheese. And when Mark asked what the score was with Natalie, I shrugged and said, "She's going away." "It's fine." The sentence landed like a pebble in the pond of our life, and the ripples were small enough to ignore. I fell asleep, feeling oddly proud of having preserved something that matters. My kids' time, my marriage, the boxes on my whiteboard that said family. I didn't know then that the world outside my house had other plans. I didn't know that someone could string together last-minute cruise and drop the kids off like a magician's trick. I only knew that I had said no, and that, for now, my life belonged to the people I promised it to. That belief, necessary, fragile, and stubborn, felt magnetic in the dark. The phone call hit me like falling through fog. Natalie's voice all sharp edges and adrenaline. "It's Tyler," she said before hello, the worry already crowding the words. "He thinks you have them. I told him you were watching Lily and Owen." Her breath came fast. "I'm on the ship. The driver called me and said he dropped them off at your place. Then he sent a pin. It's not your house, Alyssa. It's not your house. I typed the address wrong. I must have typed the address wrong." For one dizzy second, I pictured her barefoot on a balcony, a fruity drink in hand, and the kids playing in my living room like some surreal unpaid internship. Then she said, "They've been there 3 days." 3 days. The syllables were lead in my mouth. I thought of Lily with a scraped knee and no Band-Aid that fit, of Owen's habit of hiding snacks in couch cushions, of the way kids need the predictable adults who actually know them. 3 days is enough time for small things to go sideways. Illness, an adult who panics, a neighbor who doesn't call the right people. 3 days is also long enough for the story to metastasize. Tyler believing I took them, Natalie believing she can fix the mess without consequence, and the truth curling into something uglier. "Call the police," I said before I could talk myself into being kind. The clarity of it felt righteous. If a taxi dropped 2 small kids at the wrong house for 3 days, that's a situation for professionals. Call them now. Tell them where the pin is. Tell them the driver's number. She started sobbing in a way that was part real fear and part urgent bargaining. "Please don't tell Tyler. Please don't tell him I lied. He'll be so angry. He'll flip out. He'll blame me for being irresponsible. He could call my parents. He could." She listed punishments like evidence, all intended to make me shrink into complicity. "If he finds out I told him you had them when I didn't, he'll be furious. Her voice cracked. "Please, let me fix this. Don't call him. Don't call the police. I'll get the driver to send me the correct pin. There it was. The real problem wasn't the children being misplaced. The real problem was Tyler finding out his wife lied and the tidy, performative audit of blame that would follow. Natalie wanted me to be the silence that saved her marriage image. She wanted my name to be a cloak she could hide behind until she'd smoothed the edges of her mistake. I tasted anger at the back of my throat. Hot, metallic, immediate. This wasn't panic. This was choreography. She had staged me as an alibi the moment she typed the first text. She had turned my no into her backup plan, and then hoped she could correct the mess without anyone else learning the truth. That kind of entitlement is corrosive. But then there were Lily and Owen, real and small and right now, 1s and 0s on a map that may or may not be accurate. The driver had sent a pin with a timestamp 3 days prior. The thought of them spending 3 nights in a stranger's house while adults negotiated blame made me nauseous. I could imagine the couple who found them, kind, confused, petrified of CPS bureaucracy, doing what felt humane for a few days, and then waiting. Or I could imagine something worse. Natalie begged. I breathed and listed options aloud because speaking them made them more real. Call Tyler and blow the whole thing open. Call the police and involve strangers immediately, or go find the kids myself and potentially complicate everything, but at least move fast. She whispered that telling Tyler now would destroy her. She framed the choice as if my involvement would save the family from collapse. The truth was uglier. She had made a choice that put 2 children at risk and then tried to outsource the fallout to the only person she was sure would bail her out, me. I felt manipulated, yes, but also responsible in a way I hadn't consented to. My moral instincts said, bring in the professionals. My practical instincts said, act quickly to get the kids into safe arms. I chose movement over protocol. I told her I was on my way. I didn't tell Tyler because I didn't want the lie to swell into chaos before there was something concrete to report. I didn't call the police because I thought starting a search without some clue might slow us down. Calling could come after, if needed. I opened the pin, the blue dot wobbling in a nondescript cul-de-sac, and punched the address into my GPS. My hands were shaking, not from fear for myself, but because I could feel how much this moment would change the conversation at our next family dinner. I left the house with a single bag of practical things: water, snacks, a couple of diapers, my patients strapped like armor. My throat was a raw knot of anger and adrenaline. I wanted to scream at Natalie for making me choose between saving her marriage and saving her kids' safety. Instead, I drove, because the only thing I could promise in that hour was movement, toward the pin, toward whatever mess had been made, toward Lily and Owen. The pin led me to a tidy little bungalow with wind chimes and a sagging porch swing, the kind of house that smells like cinnamon and cautious kindness. My GPS said I'd arrived. My heart said I was late. My hands were still shaking when I walked up the path. Part adrenaline, part that hot, sour thing that lives in your chest when someone else's negligence has been turned into your rescue mission. A woman opened the door before I could knock. Her name was Sarah. The man beside her was Ben. They looked like people who did small, ordinary good things because that's who they were, not because they wanted recognition. Lily and Owen were on their living room rug, playing with a plastic tea set that was half mismatched and wholly beloved. Owen had a tiny leaf in his hair. Lily was wearing a shirt with a cartoon raccoon and a smile that belongs to people who don't know what a disaster looks like until someone tells them. They ran to me like I'd been gone for years. The hug Lily gave was immediate and fierce. Owen clung to my leg with the kind of trust only small children and dogs reserve for the people who actually keep them safe. I checked them like a frantic nurse, kissing foreheads, looking for bruises, asking about snacks and naps, and whether anyone had asked for their names. They were dusty, a little ragged, and somehow perfectly whole. My relief felt almost indecent, like someone had placed a warm blanket over the worst part of my imagination. Inside, Sarah told me their story in the sort of clipped, practical sentences you use when you want to preserve calm. A taxi had dropped 2 kids on their porch 3 days earlier. They'd been confused and tearful and said their mom had texted and then never returned. Sarah and Ben tried to call CPS, she said, but the line was a loop of hold music and leave a message bureaucracy. They called hospitals, nothing. They knocked on neighboring doors, no one claimed them. So they fed them, changed them when needed, gave them a bed and a kid-sized plate of warm food. They didn't want to keep them. They wanted the right people to come collect them. But for 3 days, the adults in charge had not been able to make that happen. There was gratitude in their voice, and something else. Mild bewilderment that people could simply misplace children and carry on, as if the wrong address is a punctuation mark rather than a potential catastrophe. They'd done the humane thing, Sarah said, and waited. It wasn't their job, but that they'd done it anyway. I wanted to call Natalie right then and make her hear the way the world could bend toward kindness even when she bent away from responsibility. Instead, I sat on their couch with Lily in my lap and Owen tucked against my shoulder, and I let the steady, dull peace of them being safe sink in. I texted Natalie, "Where are you? Call me." Her reply came with frantic punctuation and then a voice call that sounded like someone auditioning for I Am a Complete Wreck. I had voice in my throat that had nothing to do with pleading. I made her describe, step by step, what she'd done. She stammered. Wrong digits, fingers sliding, the driver not verifying, the PIN time-stamped 3 days ago. She apologized, and the apology was obviously real this time. It had weight. There was a rawness under her voice I hadn't heard in the earlier bargaining. "I'm so Alyssa, I'm so sorry," she said, as if the 3 words alone could rearrange the last 72 hours. I could hear Tyler in the background on her phone, the muffled hum of someone enjoying a cocktail who had no idea his house and his marriage were a corner of a scandal. I told Natalie, calmly and without theatrics, that she needed to get off the ship and deal with this, that she needed to call Tyler and tell him the truth, that she would call Sarah and Ben and apologize to them in person because they had acted like decent humans while she'd treated other people's reliability as a spare part. She promised, on the curb outside someone else's living room where my kids were safe, that she would. She promised she'd never do anything so stupid again. She said she would call Tyler, she would call Mark, she would take whatever consequence came. It sounded small, but it was something. I told her to be specific, take responsibility, make restitution, and attend to the trust she'd broken. Promises without consequence are just pretty noise. I hugged Lily and Owen until their little shoulder blades relaxed against me. I asked Sarah and Ben if there was any paperwork I could help them fill out, anything to make their day easier. They waved me off with embarrassed smiles. Small-town decency is as good at refusing praise as it is at offering help. I left them a card and a note that said thanks and drove home with a car full of sticky hands and the smell of milk on a paper towel. At the house, Sophie and Evan met their cousins like they were a band of explorers returning from a daring expedition. Mark listened to the whole story exactly as it had happened, because secrets feel worse once they're told. And his face moved through every color: confusion, fury at Natalie, relief I'd found the kids, and then a patient, quiet acceptance of the only thing that matters in the end. We fed the little ones pancakes, tucked them into beds that smelled like home. And then I sat down with Mark and told him everything Natalie had said about Tyler, about the lie, about her fear. We agreed on two things. Truth was necessary now, and boundaries would be enforced differently from here on out. Natalie called again that night, voice smaller and steadier. She said she'd told Tyler that he was furious and ashamed, that she'd apologized to Sarah and Ben, and that she understood, finally, what no meant when someone says it. She promised, sincerely, to never do something so reckless again. The promise did not erase the tremor that had lived in my chest for 3 days, but it closed a door on the immediate emergency. I don't know what will happen at the next family event. I don't know how Tyler will reshape his relationship with Natalie, or if trust can be evenly redistributed after a lie like that. What I do know is simpler and more private. I drove for an hour and pulled 2 small humans out of a situation they never should have been in. I sat at my kitchen table that night and wrote no on my whiteboard in a new, permanent color, then added an addendum in smaller letters. For real this time. The ledger of favors in my head had been balanced, painfully and precisely, with a new line. My time and my children are non-negotiable. There was justice in the fact that the people who were kind, Sarah and Ben, got more gratitude than attention would otherwise provide. There was peace in how Lily and Owen fell asleep in my house, not because I'd won a fight, but because I'd chosen to act. And beneath the shout and the thunder of it all, the small, stubborn moral things settled into place. Boundaries aren't punishments, they're preservation. I slept that night with the soft weight of 2 relieved, breathing children nearby, and the knowledge that I had finally made my no mean something.